Hello, David Patano here from GuitarPlayLikeAPro.com. In this video, I'd like to talk about why we should raise the level of our guitar playing. For the most part, this will pertain to music therapy clinical work, but also is for anyone, again, who would like to play professionally and play guitar at a high level and play songs that sound like the recordings. Before I get going, I'd like to mention something important, and that is this instruction is not just to be able to play elaborate chords. It's also to focus on to be able to play rhythmically, accurately, and effective. Music therapists and music therapy students should know the name William Sears, and he very famously talks about how rhythm is a great organizer. And I very often see it in my work, particularly with dementia patients, where they're very low functioning, but when I can present a song on my instrument and use my voice, and when I play very rhythmically in a distinct manner, how they can just grab onto that and move with the music at a very high level compared to their other areas of functioning. So that's something I'll look forward to sharing more information about. And here are some thoughts of mine from my experience, again, about why we should play guitar at a high level. In much of my music therapy work in clinical settings, often I'm sitting at a table or in a chair, or sometimes I have to sit on the floor. Very often I'm situated in a very unusual position, and I just need to be able to play the guitar without thinking about it almost, and that's very important. Once recently I worked with a dementia patient who, particularly because of her restless wandering, I needed to keep very direct and constant eye contact with. So the last thing I needed to be doing was being unsure of and focusing on my instrument. I needed to focus on the client interaction at that time. Another reason why, again, want to be able to play guitar at a high level is when we want to be able to play reharmonized songs. And these songs are more elaborate, but I'd like to give you an example. One of the most common songs I play in my work is Amazing Grace, and we all know this song. And here is how most of the music is written out. It's 1-4-5, or if in the key of C, C, F, and G. So typically it's played Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Now here is a reharmonized version that I don't do this on a lot of songs, but when it is applicable, it's a very nice way to present songs. So, and these are some added chords to the simple song Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, and now. And you get the idea. And if I couldn't play at a reasonably high level, I wouldn't be able to play songs like that. A technique I often use in my clinical work is playing with dynamics. And all music requires us to do this, but for clinical reasons, I'm very conscious of this. Being able to play loud and soft. Another reason for playing the guitar at a high level is in this day and age, with healthcare changing and being very fluid, budgets are often an issue. So in my experience, particularly with hospice agencies I work for, very often families make donations to the music therapy program when they're impressed, when they hear music and they see their loved one being very positively affected by the live music. And as I've been mentioning, playing accurately is very important. Accurately gives music a real authentic feel and experience for the patient. And recently I had a hospice patient who, when I would play music from her childhood that she heard her parents play on the piano, she would just kind of stare off in almost wonderment, like the movies of her mind. Her memories was just going and going because of how the live music stimulated her. So again, playing authentic and accurately really gives patients and families an opportunity for that kind of experience. During my hospital pediatric work that I do through the week, I very often have to play guitar with gloves on and a gown and a mask. So again, that's another very good reason why you want to play very confidently and be able to play without giving your guitar much thought. Because very often we're put in these situations where the last thing we have to think about is our playing. I did mention this earlier, but I think it's important enough to mention again that another reason why I think we need to raise our level of guitar playing, particularly for music therapy work, is we want to be able to play music like the composer initially wrote it, and playing it without shortcuts. And again, I mentioned it many times, but my characterization of being able to play it like a piano player plays when they read sheet music. They don't take shortcuts, and we can do the same on the guitar. In my autism work, it's very fun because there's often a lot of high energy going on and a lot of movement going on very often. And with my guitar strapped on, I have to be able to jump and play, move around, high five, all sorts of things. And again, last thing I want to be thinking about is how I'm playing my guitar. So I want to be confident in my playing. Something I enjoy very much with families particularly is when I'm visiting a family, usually in a hospice setting, where the family is real musical. Just recently, I visited a family where the patient grew up playing piano duets with her brother, and in later years, the patient played piano duets with the daughter whose house I was visiting. So the patient was not able to play anymore, but the patient really enjoyed me being able to play duets, me on the guitar and the daughter on piano. And again, you got to be able to play guitar nicely and at a fairly high level to be able to do that. And when you can, the family, again, is just ecstatic that they can experience live music like that, and that you're that confident that you can do that, play their music the way they grew up hearing it. And another area that I've enjoyed many times in the past is when, again, probably in a hospice setting, this has happened, where I visit and interact and work with an accomplished musician. This has happened many times over the years. One particular gentleman was our area's jazz pianist for years. So I got to play jazz music with him, supported him, accompanied him, and I learned things from him that I still use to this day. There are songs I play that I always think of different chord sequences and chord progressions that he taught me to use in certain situations. So that's very fun when you can play with accomplished musicians. Again, support them and play the way they play. And another reason why I think it's important to raise our level of guitar playing is because being able to play various styles of music, again, in a music therapy setting, you won't be limiting yourself for job possibilities. If an agency closes down where you were working with the elderly population, if something on the other side of town opened up where it required you to work with adolescents, you should be able to just go from playing music from the 30s, 40s, and 50s to be able to be playing music of the 90s, 2000s, and 2010s and beyond. So it really helps to be able to play guitar competently for that kind of reason also. And if you can play guitar at a real competent professional level, one great thing is in between jobs, while you're going to school, whatever, you can always work. You can play in a band, you can play at your church, you can play at coffee houses, you can play at nursing homes and get paid very nicely, and you'll just always be able to work. You can teach guitar, those kinds of things. So I think being able to play guitar or any instrument for that matter in a competent manner is very useful for your career. Recently I was working with a dementia patient who had a secondary pain issue. So working with her, I found myself having to play very, almost intensely and distinctly, but very soft because of her pain and fragility. So it made me realize I just really needed to play at a real confident level, but playing softly. So that required me to use all of my skills to work with this woman. And lastly, for these thoughts regarding playing guitar at a high level, and I'm doing more of this than ever, is being able to write music with hospice patients. Or if you're a music educator, write songs with your kids, or whatever. But being able to write music for songwriting projects needs a level of competence on the guitar if you're going to use the guitar. So I write and record things all the time with patients and their families, and it's really rewarding for them to be able to hear something that they wrote and me being able to play it on the guitar again at a way that they envision hearing it. So that requires a level of competence. So as I think of more of these kinds of things in the instruction videos, I'll definitely mention them and carry on to the videos.